Okay, I welcome you all for the week 3 of this NPTEL course on architectural approaches to decarbonization of buildings, and this will be taken by me, Sudhir Kumar Gupta. And this problem solving session will be based on the content of week 3. It will be the quick revision of the week 3 content, and based on that, some important questions that can be asked in the exam, or the pattern that has been followed that will be in your final exam. Apart from that, some important previous year questions were also will also be discussed in the later part of this session, and this session will be for 2 hours, and we will try to finish it within that time frame, and we will be starting with our week 3 lecture 1 slides, and in that we will try to see uh, how many questions answer we are able to give based on our understanding of the lecture 1 of the content of week 3. Here is the first question for the session, where we can see it has been asked which of the following building types are covered under the Energy Conservation and Building Code ECBC. And from here, as we can see, there are 4 options. So out of the 4 options, I would like you to choose the most appropriate answers. But before then that, I would like to clear one thing, that in the assignment pattern also you might have observed that most of the questions, they are MCQ questions, and very few questions that will be discussed in the later session of the this lecture series. There will be some numerical problems you will have to solve and mark the correct answer. And apart from that, you must have observed that there are some multiple choice questions also there in the assignment questions. So similarly, the same pattern will be followed in the final exam as well. There will be some multiple choice question, multiple option question also be there. Whether you have to take the correct answer, whether it is one answer is correct or two answer is correct, you will have to look each of the options carefully. And sometimes there will be some short numericals also based on the discussion that we had in the that particular week lectures. So based on that, try to give your answer. What do you understand from the question, and what you have understood from the content of week 3 lecture 1. So this question, either one option is correct or two options or more than that is correct. You try to answer, give your answer in the chat box. Then we will be discussing it in detail. If such questions comes, whether you will be able to answer or not, that we will have to see. So whichever option you think to be the most appropriate one, you give your answer in the chat box, or you can choose multiple answers also for this particular question. This question is based on the slide number 3 of week 3 lecture 1. If you have studied that lecture week 3 slide 3, then you must be able to answer this question number 1. Let me see if you have answered it. Okay, so try to answer to this question. And if you don't know the answer, then after 1 minute we will be discussing it. So read all the options carefully and try to give answer. Which of the following building types are covered under the Energy Conservation and Building Code? Out of the 4 options, which options are suitable? So here is our second participant. Let me admit him or her. Yeah, let me admit him. Meanwhile, so we are having 2 participants that have joined, and some of them will be joining in between the session. So, good evening, Rajesh. So here is the first question for today's discussion, and similarly
Good
we
evening,
will be
sir.
discussing several questions. So try to give your answer in the chat box for this particular question. Question number one.
Okay.
Yeah, whichever answer you think to be the correct one, either it can be single answer or it can be multiple answer as well, like we have asked in the assignment questions as well. So try to give your answer. What do you think is the most appropriate answers for this question? Then we will be discussing it with all of you. I hope I received one answer. Let's wait for other. And if he or she don't want to answer, then we can proceed as well. Okay. So let's see how many of you were able to understand the question and answer it correctly. Okay. So we have got one B, D, and C answer for this particular question, question number one. So from the slide number three of this week three lecture one, you can see that out of the four options, only option B and C are the correct answers. Like it has been discussed in the slide that ECBC applies to commercial buildings or complexes having a connected load of 100 kilowatt or greater or a contract demand of 120 kilowatt ampere. So based on that, it was discussed that this ECBC significantly does not cover private residential buildings. Rather, residential buildings are instead covered under Econivas Sanhita. That's why this residential buildings option A get discarded, and only option B and C, which are talking about the commercial buildings, those options are being considered under this ECBC code. That's why commercial buildings complexes, which talks about option B and C, that have been considered as the right answer for this question. And if the answer would have, question would have been asked for the Eco Nivas Samhita, then the purpose or then we would have talked about the residential houses and buildings. Got it? So can we move to the second question if all of you are fine?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. So here's the second question then. Try to give answer to the second question as well based on your understanding and revise the things whatever you have studied. So what percentage of India's 2030 urban infrastructure is yet to build? So it was discussed that like this much of the infrastructure have been built in, till now, and as per the 2030 urban infrastructure consideration, how much area needs to be built yet? What percentage or what parameters were discussed? Based on that, you try to answer to this question, question number second. And this is based on the slide 2. Sorry, this is based on the slide 7 of lecture 1. So all the questions that I will be discussing here, it will be based on the lecture 1 of week 1, week 3. So based on that, you if you are having some sort of doubt, so you can also download the lecture slides and go through that parallelly, and you can revise the things and try to give answers to these questions. So it is a kind of revision whether you are able to recall it here after 1 week, because when there will be final exam, then there will be 12-week content in front of you all. So you need to revise the things and practice it again and again, because it's not much numerical question content, I could say. It's something like you have to remind and you have to understand the concept. So based on that, you can answer. So let me see how many of you have answered for this question number second. Yeah, as I can see, C options have been opted, and it is good to know that C is the correct answer for this question number 2, where it was described that about two-thirds of the India's urban infrastructure it is yet to build, or nearly about you can say 70% of the India's 2030 urban infrastructure, including the sanitation or drinking water, electricity distribution, transport, health services, is yet to build, which making a major opportunity to reduce the embodied carbon emissions. So you have opted for the correct answer. I hope you have studied the slides well. So let's move to the third question then, and try to give answer and judge yourself where you are standing. Question number three. Here also there can be multiple answers as well, and there can be single answers as well. So try to choose the most or the appropriate answers, multiple appropriate answers as well. This is the pattern of final exam as well. So read the question carefully and select all the correct statements that are regarding embodied carbon emissions across a project life cycle. So whatever the carbon emissions are there across the life cycle of a project, what percent is from which sector, that you have to answer. Let's see how many of you can answer it correctly and understand the importance of various sectors in producing the embodied carbon emissions. Here we have the answer. A, B, C, D. All options have been marked correctly, but all the options are not correct. So you can go through the slide 7 of this week lecture, lecture 1 of week 3. So you can revise the thing, try to answer it correctly. So do you want to answer it again, or shall we discuss? Because all the options are not correct. You can see the question again. Question number 3. All the options are not correct. So let me discuss it with all of you then. I think some of you are facing some difficulty in answering to this question. Okay, so we got one more answer for this question. Let's see who is there. B, C, D. No. So let me discuss it then. So for this particular question, question number 3, the correct answer is A, B, and D. Because in slide 7 of lecture 1, we have discussed like before the project completion, 50 to 70%, which is mentioned in option A, 50 to 70% of embodied carbon is emitted. And let me admit, first of all, let me admit our fourth participant. Yeah, here is Mr. Safiz. So let's discuss the question answered again then. So in the explanation we have discussed like before project completion around 50 to 70% of the embodied is emitted, and whatever is have been mentioned in option A, and also we know that option B, that of the upfront emissions 80 to 85 to 90% occur during the manufacturing phase. That is also correct. And the third one that has been mentioned in option D, that construction stays for 3 to 5% of the upfront emissions. It is also correct. But whatever is mentioned in option C, that transportation contributes 15 to 20% of the upfront emissions. This is not the correct value for this particular upfront emissions, because as you can see this all the, if you will be adding all the upfront, then it will be coming above 100. Like upfront of B, if you are considering to be correct, then it is at the lower end it is 85. Then if you're considering the upfront for construction, it is 5% nearly or 30%. Then it is nearly 80%, 90%, 85 plus 5. So it needs to be lower. The transportation in the overall percentage cannot go above 100%. That's why the correct answer would have been if the transportation upfront contribution or the emission have been mentioned in the range of 3 to 5%, or or the 7 to 10%, not more than that. So it is below 10% always. The upfront emission from the transportation sector, it is below 10%. It is in the range of 7 to 10%. That's all. That's why the overall summation of all the upfront emission is coming above 100%, which could not be the correct one. So out of the three options which have been mentioned in B, C, D, one was incorrect, and that is option C. Fine. So can we move to the next question? So option C is the not the correct answer, and rest of the option A, B, D is the correct answer. Everybody is fine. Can we move to the next question?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So is the fourth question of the day then. Which of the following are part of Griha's sustainable building material criteria? So there was a long discussion, detailed discussion about the Griha sustainable building criteria or the Griha this building code. So based on the understanding of this particular thing, you try to answer that out of the four options, which options are correct or which options are a part of Griha sustainable building materials criteria and which do not fall under that. So this is also multiple choice answers. So try to give your answer for this question. And if similar questions are asked, you try to revise the concept. And based on the all the options, also you can discard. Like in previous option, I have discarded one because the overall percentage were getting more than 100%. So based on your understanding and reading all the four options, also you can discard some of the options and you can tick the correct answers. So I let's see how many of you can answer the correct answer in the chat box for this question number 4. So let's see who has answered and who wants to join the session. Yeah, Sidlin. So he is our fifth participant of the day. Okay. So who has answered for this question? Let me see. Yeah, this has answered A, B, D. So let's see. Yeah, A, B, D. Yeah. So this time you are absolutely correct, 100% correct. A, B, D are only the correct answer for this question, and the rest option C. This is not the correct answer for this question number 4. From the option itself, you can see that use of high embodied materials to ensure durability. This is not at all the part of Griha's material selection criteria, and rest of the other options like option A, B, D. These are the part of Griha's sustainable building material criteria. And as you all know that Griha awards points for low carbon materials. So whatever have been mentioned in option C, that use of high embodied material, this is completely opposite of the Griha's award points. So it is based on the low carbon materials or it is focusing for green greenhouse, global warming potential reduction, you can say, or alternate materials for external works. So that's why option C was not the correct answer, and you have answered it correctly. So let's move to the fifth question then. So try to answer to the fifth question as well. Out of the four options, which options are correct? Choose the most appropriate answer for this question as well. It can be single option answer or it can be multiple choice answers. Under Griha, this is very popular scheme that have been considered for building coding in India. So under Griha scheme, you try to answer which aspect of the building design gets the highest number of points. There was division of the points also. When it was discussed under various divisions, some points were allocated out of the 100 points. Which section will be given how much point. So you try to recall that which energy section have been given the highest number of points. So I hope this was very straightforward question, but in this also you will have to recall or revise the things that you have studied, and based on that I can see two answers have been given, and both of them they are opting for option number C, and they are absolutely correct that energy optimization it has the highest number of points under the GRIHA because it accounts for around 12 points, the highest within the energy category. And whatever other options that have been mentioned, like renewable energy utilization, it has only 5 points. Fine. So your answer is correct. C option is the correct answer for this question. If it have been asked in the exam, it is containing 12 point, which is the highest under this particular category. So let's move to the week 3, lecture 2 contents, and let's recall, revise those things and try to give answer to these questions then. First question is there in front of you all from week 3, lecture 2 series. Which of the following best describes the gross energy requirement, which in short we call as GER in embodied energy assessment? Whenever you will be doing the embodied energy assessment, then this particular term will be coined up, gross energy requirement. So this particular energy term describes which of the following out of the four options. Try to choose the most appropriate answer. It can be single option also, it can be multiple answers also. So try to choose the most appropriate one. Let's see how many of you can answer it correctly based on your understanding. This embodied energy assessment had been discussed in detail. Like you can separately separate the things like embodied and operational. So based on that, if you're clear about the embodied one and if you're clear about the operational part, then you can easily answer to this question, which should come under this. Let's see how many of you have yet answered and answered it correctly. Yeah. So as I can see, two answers I have received. One is for C and one is calling A and C. So This is considering the most appropriate answer and the only one answer for this question. So, as you can see, if you are only taking the one and most appropriate answer, so it should be option C, which describes about the total energy. Because the question have been asked about the gross energy requirement. So, the term gross energy requirement, it tells us about the total energy, including the production, transport, infrastructure impacts, etc. So whatever the option A is talking about, it is only talking about the energy used to produce building materials. It is not talking about the total. So GER cannot only talk about energy used for production. It is always talking about the total energy. That's why it is named as gross energy requirement. That's why the option C will be the most appropriate and the single answer for this particular question, question number one. Is it clear? Option C is the correct answer. Can we move to the next question? Okay. So thanks for your response. Let's move to the next question then. And try to learn from your mistakes and get the things revised and correct the concepts that you are having. So let's move to the second question then. Which factor makes embodied energy assessment more challenging than operational energy measurement? So we are doing both the measurements. If someone is doing embodied energy assessment measurement, if somebody is doing operational energy measurement, so we generally know or we can understand that embodied energy measurement is more challenging than operational energy measurement. So why it is difficult to measure embodied energy assessment? That's the question. We try to choose the most appropriate answer. Why it is difficult to measure the embodied energy assessment? Let's see how many of you can understand and answer it correctly. So I think you have understood the answer and answered also. So I have received two answers, B and D. Right. So out of this B and D, only one answer is correct. So the correct answer for this question number two is question answer number B, option B. Since we all know that whatever the operational energy we are measuring or whatever the operational energy we are consuming, we can easily monitor those energy with the help of energy meters. But the embodied energy, these assessments are a bit difficult or challenging because it is not because the cost of electricity meters or not because of the lack of building drawings or seasonal climate variation also. It's not like that. It's mainly because of the nature of the embodied energy and boundary setting issues. Like it's very difficult to visualize the embodied energy because of its hidden nature, or you can say it's very difficult to boundary setting the issues like from which points which portion you are considering the embodied energy, whether it is from the extraction process or in between there are so many hidden processes during the extraction also. We just call extraction process embodied energy, but within the extraction also there are very small processes are involved, and you have to go in detail and analyze which process you have to consider and which process is producing and contributing to how much embodied energy in that particular section of this process. So it's very difficult to see the hidden nature of this embodied energy, and boundary setting issues are also there. That's why the operational energy can be directly measured through meters, as I was talking about. But this embodied energy hidden and depends heavily on the boundary definition, as we all know. That's why it's also like it includes transport of workers also will be coming under this one only, because we are transporting the workers or fittings for digging the ores for extraction of metals. There's So many hidden processes are involved, which makes the measurement or assessment difficult. So option B is the correct answer for this question number 2. Is it clear? Have you got the picture of embodied energy assessment? Can we move to the next question? Okay. Thanks for your response. I hope you have understood it well. So try to avoid this mistake. Let's move to the third question. Here's the third question in front of you all then. So several materials were discussed. So let me admit to the sixth participant of today's session. Okay, here's the sixth participant. Okay, so we were here in our problem solving session. We have discussed several questions of lecture 1 of week 3. Now we are discussing several questions and revising the content of lecture 2 of week 3. So here is the third question based on that. Try to give your answer in the chat box based on your understanding about the content of week 3, lecture 3, lecture 2. So several materials properties have been discussed. Based on that, try to answer which material has the highest embodied carbon among common construction materials that have been discussed. So these are several common construction materials that are utilized while constructing the buildings, but out of them, which is having the highest embodied carbon? Let's see how many of you can recall and answer it correctly. I have received two answers till now out of the six participants that I have enrolled today. Let's see how many of you can understand and correct answer it correctly. Yeah, as I can see, so you are going for option C, and you are absolutely correct. Option C is the correct answer for this question, and we have discussed in the lecture 2 of week 3 that aluminum has the highest embodied carbon, followed by the fiberglass with steel, cement, glass, also significant due to their higher usage volume. But out of all, the aluminum was having the highest embodied carbon. That's why option C is the correct answer for this question number 3, and you have answered it correctly. So let's move to the question 4 then. Here is question number 4 for you all. Similarly, like question number 3, try to give your point of view and answer for this question number 4 as well in the chat box. Which of the following material has a negative global warming potential? So, negative global warming potential simply means that it is not creating or it is not producing the global warming potential. Rather, it is acting as a carbon sink, or it is acting as a negative source for global warming potential. So based on that, you try to answer which material is not producing global warming, whether it is helping us in decreasing the global warming potential. In that regard, also, if you will try to understand, then you will be able to answer to this question number 4. Let's see how many of you can answer it then. Yeah, as I can see, 4B have been marked by you, and B is the correct answer. All of you are absolutely correct. Like as compared to the other three options, option B was only having a negative global warming potential, because as you know that plywood or largely made of the waste wood, and it has the global warming potential of minus 3.1 kg of CO2 equivalent, meaning it offset more carbon than it emits during the production. That's why it is negative. Whatever it emits, more than that, it offsets. And other negative global warming potential material include straw bale or air dried sawn timber. These things can also be asked in your next questions or in the exam. So try to recall because there are several positive materials, but there are very few materials there those are having negative global warming potentials. That become important. Fine. So you have answered it correctly. So let's move to the next question then. Question number five. Here is question number five for all of you. And try to answer to this question number five as well, like you have answered the previous questions correctly. And let's see how many of you are able to answer it. Why is excessive sand use discouraged despite its low embodied energy? Although the sand is having low embodied energy, then also excessive use of sand is not promoted or it has been discouraged. What should be the most appropriate answer for this one? Let's see how many of you can answer. If you know the things and can understand the things carefully, then you can easily answer to this question and read all the options and pick the most appropriate one. And this is a kind of division for you. The similar kind of questions you need to practice and you have to complete it faster than others, because such kind of questions will also be there in your final year exam. So you will be able to pick the things faster. Let's see how many of you can answer the question number five correctly. So let's discuss it then. I have received how many answers? Yeah, I have received two answers for this question. There are two different answers for this question. One is saying D and one is saying C. Let me discuss the correct answer for it. The correct answer for this question is C. So, though the sand has the low embodied energy, as have been mentioned in the question also. So, if it is having low embodied energy or low uh, emissions, you can say so. The option D, that it increases global warming potential, is not the correct answer, because as it has already means that it has low embodied energy. So if it is having low embodied energy, so overuse can harm the river ecosystem. As you know, the sands they are coming from the rivers. So if you are over extracting the sand from the rivers, then it can harm the river ecosystem and landscapes also. So overall, it will be making the environmental or environment unsustainable. So it is not because the reason of increasing the wheeling weight or it is too expensive or global warming. It is mainly because if you are over exploiting some resource, excessive you are utilizing the sand, that can cause severe environmental damage. That is very important concern for today. So option C have been marked by Celine and it is the correct answer for this question number 5. So can we move to the next question if you are clear with the fifth question? So I think all of you are clear. Yeah, yes is also being marked. So let's move to the next question then and try to revise again our concepts. Sixth, key principle for selecting low embodied energy materials include. Yeah. So whenever you will be selecting low embodied energy materials, so what things you will notice or what things you will consider so that you can overall reduce or you can select low embodied energy materials. What should be the criteria or principles out of the four options? Which one you will opt and which one you will not opt? Try to give answer for question number 6. This is multiple choice question. I am repeating, this is multiple choice question. So there are several answers which can be marked correctly. So in that you try to discard the answer which is not correct. So you will be able to answer to question number 6. So let's see how many of you can answer it correctly. For question number 6, as I can see, A and D have been opted by most of the people, and B is only marked by silly. Fine. So let me move to the slide and discuss it with you all so that it can be clear. So except option C, that is not opted by any one of you, that's fine, correct. Option C has been discarded. That is talking about avoid materials with any recycled content. This is not at all correct. But apart from A and D, option B is also correct. Whenever you are talking about the key principle for selecting low embodied energy materials, then heavy materials, since their transport will be more, so it should always be sourced locally to cut the transport fuel. But these lightweight materials, they can be sourced globally, and reuse and recycling potential reduces waste and future embodied energy. That's why we should promote to the reuse or recycled materials. That's why option C is discarded, and option D is correct because it is talking about the reuse potential. So whoever has opted option A and D, they are correct, but they have also to mark option B because option B is also fine because it is talking about the source. You can source the lightweight materials globally or locally, means it is considering both locally and globally. It is not talking about not to take from local. So lightweight materials is not having much transport fuel or transport cost or emissions. That's why option B is also being considered. Fine. Can we move to the next question? Can we move to the next question? Okay. As I can see, Rajesh is fine with option B and he has included in his answer further. So let's move to the next question then. Question number 7. Which of the following is a recommended policy intervention to address operational carbon in buildings? Option C. Question 7. Yeah. This is a multiple choice question and only one answer is correct. So out of the four, choose the most appropriate one. Let's see how many of you can answer it correctly. Whether to establish maximum limits for embodied carbon in projects or to mandate annual energy and emission reporting for large non-residential buildings and promote fossil fuel based heating system. This is not at all correct. And reduce building envelope performance standards. So standards reduction is also not good. So let's see out of A or B which option you think to be the most appropriate one. I can see Rajesh, Silin, Amit, all of them have marked option B and they think it is to be the most appropriate answer and they're absolutely correct. Option B is the correct answer for this question. Like mandate the annual energy and emission reporting for large non-residential buildings. This is the correct answer for this question and this is the recommended policy intervention to address the operational carbon in buildings because we have studied in our week 3 that lecture that policies recommend annual measurement and reporting of the annual use and emissions for large non-residential buildings to improve carbon management. So it is being discussed in option B. So it is the correct answer and all of you are able to recall that. And fine. I'm happy to know that. Let's move to the lecture 3 then. Let's see how many of you understand and grasp the key concepts of lecture 3 of week 3. Based on that, here's the first question in front of you all. What is meant by operational energy? Everywhere we are talking about the embodied energy, operational energy, overall energy consumption, gross energy requirements. So, what do you understand by the term operational energy in buildings particularly? So, mention the correct question number and then the correct answer. And as I can see, Rajesh is the first to answer to this question. He was able to grasp the answer very fast and he has answered it already. So let's see. Yeah, so all of them have answered it correctly. So if it would have been asked in the examination, then they would have answered it correctly. That energy consumed for heating, cooling, lighting, and appliances operational during occupancy of buildings. They come under operational energy and other the option of manufacturing or doing the only air conditioning or building demolition, those do not come under operation. They are correct. So let's move to the second question then and check their concept. Here the second question. According to the World Green Building Council 2019 WGBC, what percentage of global energy related CO2 emissions come from operational emissions in buildings? Hmm. I hope you all will be able to answer to this question. Choose the correct answer for this one. It is talking about you must be don't get confused with the total percentage of global energy related CO2 emissions. It is only talking about the global energy CO2 emissions that come from operational emissions, not from the embodied emissions. So if you will be distributing the total or dividing the total with between embodied emissions and the operational emissions, so how much comes under the operational emissions? So for this you can refer to the slide number 4 of lecture 3 where it has been discussed in detail. Slide 4 of lecture 3. So here we got one answer. After whose discussion we have got one answer and two answers also we have got. So let me recall you all and see whether you have answered it correctly or not. Yeah, as I can see, all of you have marked option B, and I'm happy to share again that option B is the correct answer, and all of you have answered it correctly and understood it very well. That have been mentioned also, like building accounts for 39%. Option C, 39% of the CO2 related uh, energy related CO2 emissions. But as the question was only asked for the operational emissions in the buildings, then out of that 39%, this accounts for only 28% of the operational emission, and rest 11% it have been marked under the embodied emissions category. So if sometimes the question may ask about total, then you have to mark 39%. If question asks only for the operational emissions, then you have to mark 28%. And if it asks about the embodied emission, then you have to mark 11%. So you have opted the most correct answer. So let's move to the third question then. Here is the third question. Yeah. So in the previous question, we were talking about the operational emissions. Now we are talking about the operational energy consumptions. So globally, what percent of total energy consumption is due to the operational energy used in buildings? Let's see how many of you can answer it correctly. Question number 3. So again, I want to mention that it is talking about only the operational energy part. It's not talking about total or embodied energy part. So let's see how many of you can answer question 3. So it's a very straightforward question. You have to recall that ballpark numbers. This is going for D and C. Ceiling is going for the 20%. Which option it is? 50% C. So two answers and being in different directions. Let's see which direction is correct. What answer I think. Okay, so let me discuss. So the correct answer for this question number 3 is 30%. Option C. It has been marked by C. And it has been discussed in slide number 5. You can revise it and recall it from lecture 3 slide 5 which was discussed. You can again replay the video and then you can see that about 30% of the global energy consumption is due to operational energy in buildings, and which is increasing to even 34%. So it is in the range of 30 to 34% you can say, but you cannot go for 44%. When including the manufacturing of cement, steel, aluminum for construction, then it goes for 34%. So it is in the range of 30 to 34% only. So option C is the most appropriate answer, not option D. Fine. Can we move to the next question? I hope it is clear. Yes, it is clear. So next time I think this mistake you won't be doing. You are able to revise with all the things. So here's the fourth question then. What was the appropriate global building operations CO2 emissions level in 2021? Yeah. So how much was the operational CO2 emissions? It was in the range of it was how much global, or you can simply say build operational CO2 emissions from buildings. What should be the correct answer? And for this, you can refer to the slide 5 again. Here, there it was discussed and mentioned clearly that as per 2021 data, the building operational CO2 was how much? I hope you will be able to answer it correctly. Let's see how many of you have answered it already. Okay, so four answers I have received, two answers. Four C, both of them are talking about. Let's wait some more answers. Let's wait for some more persons to answer. Let me project the question again. If he or she can add to this answer, or he or can she supports the answer. So you can refer to the slide 5 of lecture 3 of week 3 as well, parallelly, and from visualizing the things, you can parallelly understand it very well. So anyone more wants to add? Rajesh, do you have any answer for this question? Or shall we move for the discussion? Okay, he's opting for B. Fine. So the correct answer for this question number 4, it is option C, that have been marked correctly by most of you. That is 6 gigaton CO2 emissions that have been considered from the building operations CO2 emissions. It was reaching over 10 gigatons. It was discussed in option C. So C is the correct answer, and it was a record high, 5% above the data of 2020 or 2% above the 2019 peaks. So it was over 10 gigatons that have been mentioned in slide 5 of lecture 3. So whoever have marked or whoever will be marking option C as the correct answer in the final exam also, they will be getting the points, and whoever will be opting for other answers, it will be bad for them to secure score. So let's move to the fifth question then. Yeah, here is the fifth question for you all. Which passive or which strategy can reduce operational carbon emissions in building? So out of the four options, which strategy or which strategies it is asking, or not strategy. So there are, from this also you can say it is talking about multiple strategies. So you have to choose multiple answers for this question. It is multiple choice question. Let's see how many of you can answer it. What are the ways? It's simply talking about what are the ways to reduce the operational carbon in buildings. Let's see how many of you can answer it correctly. Question number 5. Anyone? So I received only one answer till now. Let's wait for others also to answer. And let's see how many of you can answer it correctly. So here is the question I am projecting again. Let's answer the question fast because we'll have to end the session as well. So we will have to practice the most important questions, I should say, which are the assignment questions of previous year. Because what have been observed, like the assignment question of previous year and assignment question of this year, they are very, very important from the exam point of view. So this needs to be discussed. So try to give your answers quickly, and then we can discuss it and then move to the next question. So this for question number 5, anyone who wants to give their answer? Okay, now we got answer. So somebody has answered, so we can discuss it. So ABC have been marked by three of them, and what I can see, all the options ABC, whoever have marked, they are absolutely correct for this question. They would absolutely get 100% reward points. That is the passive design for thermal comfort is very, very important. Using star rated appliances are also very important. And switching to the renewable energy or electricity is also very important. But whatever the option 4 says, increasing the use of coal fired or the fossil fuel heating, this will be not reducing the operational carbon, rather it will be increasing the operational carbon. That's why it has been discarded by most of you. So this is correct. Let's move to the next question then. Question number 6. Here is question number 6. What is the largest contributor to operational carbon emissions in urban Indian residents? So, if you're talking about the operational carbon emissions in urban areas or urban India residential houses, so what is the largest contributor for that? In urban areas, they are contributing to the operational carbon emissions. To which thing is contributing the most out of the four options? As I can see, one has already answered. I got multiple answers. Although all of them are opting for the correct answer. As I can see, yeah. So Rajesh was the first to understand the question and answer it quickly. Based on that, all of you have marked C, and C is the only correct answer for this question, which is the most. It has been asked about the largest contributor, so it cannot be multiple answers. So C, whatever is talking about air conditioning, is the leading contributor to the operational carbon emission in the urban India, and then it is followed by the LPG or PNG cooking in the second stage. Fine. So let's move to the seventh question of this particular lecture. So try to answer to this question also, like you all of you have answered correctly to the previous question. So we have talked about the urban. Then if you're talking about the rural area residences, so in which source in rural areas, which source is currently the major contributor to the operational emissions? What do you think of people in rural areas utilize or that contribute to the no that majorly contribute to the operational emissions of the rural area residences? Let's see who can answer it first. So it is talking about the major contributor. It is not at all talking about major contributors. Like previous question has asked about the largest contributor. It is similar. You have to choose only one answer, which is the most. So two option is not the correct answer, which have been marked. As I can see, if from the question itself, you can see it is talking about the major or most. So B and C both you cannot mark, and rest of people have marked option C. Okay, option C. So C, whoever have opted, C is the correct answer for this question number 7. Like presently, wood for cooking, it dominates the rural operational emission. It is the correct statement. But AC use is also projected to rise sharply by 2050 and will be becoming equally significant. But if you're talking about at present, then wood is definitely that they are utilizing for cooking, it is dominating for the operational CO2 emission, contributing majorly to the operational CO2 emissions. So you are correct. So can we move to the next question? It is clear now that option C is the most appropriate answer. Then okay. So as I can see, some of you are saying you are fine and you're okay. So let's move to the next question then. So whatever questions we have discussed, those were based on the up to lecture 3 of week 3. Initially, we have discussed lecture 1, lecture 2, lecture 3. Then we are moving towards the some of the sample problem questions that can be asked based on the lecture 4 of week 3. So here is the first question then. Try to make correct option selection. Which of the following is true regarding embodied energy and operational energy? Yeah. Which energy dependent on one factors, whether both are dependent on occupancy, the embodied is dependent on occupancy and operational is not, or embodied energy is independent of occupancy but operational energy is dependent on occupancy, or both are independent of occupancy. So if you're talking about occupancy, who are like we are the occupants of the house. So which energy dependent on us? What you have to opt. Let's see how many of you understood the question and appreciated the concept by giving the correct answer in the chat box. So this is the last lecture of week 3, and these are the sample problems based on those lecture content. And after that, we will be discussing the important previous year questions that have been asked in the exam as well. So let's finish this one first, then we will move into the previous year assignment questions. So I hope most of you have understood the question and would have answered it correctly. Yeah. So C options have been opted by most of you, as I can see. So C is the correct answer as per you all. So yeah, all of you are absolutely correct. Like embodied energy is independent of occupancy, as we all know. It is from extraction, manufacturing, production, or transportation. These are contents where occupancy has nothing to do. It's independent of the occupancy behavior or occupants. But the operational energy, it is highly dependent on the occupancy. How many occupants are there, what is population size inside the house, or what is their behavior, whether they are replacing the air conditioning or whether they are saving the energy. It is very dependent upon the occupancy. So all of you have opted the correct answer and understood it very well. Let's move to the second question then. Here is the second question. When do most embodied emissions occur in building life cycle? Yeah, this is very, I should say, very difficult question. If you have not understood the concept of embodied emissions very well, and if you have understood it very well, then you will be able to answer it correctly. He's talking about embedded. When do the most embedded emissions occur in the building life cycle? Occupancy, maintenance, these are very few. How many of you answered it correctly? Let's see. Rajesh, I think he has answered. And Rajesh has answered as option C. I can see. And Shilin has also answered C, but it is going for option D. Let me have a few discussion regarding that. So when you're talking about the embedded emissions during the building life cycle, so you can see during the original construction phase, lot of emissions are there. We have to construct it. It takes a long process also constructing a building, and it takes several machines and several uh, workers also. They are also coming from uh, long distance by transportation. Materials are also coming by transportation from different places. So construction phase itself take long time and lot of energy and emissions also. And as when we will talking about the occupancy or during the maintenance or occupancy, this will not be considering most of the emissions as you have also mentioned. But when you're talking about at the time of demolition, the time of demolition it is a short-term process. It is not like a 1 month or 1 year. Like it takes even building a small house also it takes around 1 year or 6 months. For demolition, it is not long-term process, or it's not require very so many laborers, or skilled laborers, or so much energy intensive. So it can be done with one or two machines as well. So in original construction phase require proper planning and proper machining of all the things. That finishing is there, whether piping or everything is there in the original construction phase. That's why consider most of the embodied emissions. Is it clear now? Can we move to the next question? Question number second. You people having we are having some doubt regarding that. Now I think it is being discussed. Well, you must have got some points out of that. So let's move to the third question then. Which of the following are major determinants of operational energy in building? So it is talking about which are the following. So when it is talking about are the major determinants, so it is talking about multiple options. So it is multiple choice question. So read the questions carefully. It is not talking about only or the most. It is talking about the major and then determinants. So it is asking for multiple answers. It is there, and which options you think will be the contributors of the operational energy in buildings. Let's see how many of you can answer it correctly. Question number three. Here is question number three. Try to give your answers for question number three. So operational energy is dependent upon what factors? A simple question. If you will know the operational energy, then you can recall it is dependent upon what factors, whether building type, which building type it is, it will be dependent upon that whether it is single storage building, double storage building, or whether it is which shape of the building is there, building type affects the operational energy or not. Then location and climate, if it is constructed in severe or drastic location or climate conditions, severe climate conditions like where it's so much cold, where it's so much hot or hot and humid, whether the operational energy will be changing or not. Then third, the number of occupants. Whether the number of occupants will be 10, then it is 20, then whether it will be dependent, the operational energy will be dependent on number of occupants or not, it will remain same. And then the physiological traits of the occupants is mainly talking about the psychological, is talking about the one mentality of the occupants, whether they are keeping the AC at 16, although it is not required 16 degrees Celsius, whether they're switching off the lights when it is not in use or closing the taps. So all these things, whether the pump is running whole day, they are simply playing games and enjoying. So it is how the psychological traits of the occupants, whether it will be the operational energy, like two people are living in same similar kind of house in same location, but we will find the bill of two people will be different. How? Because it also depends upon the psychological traits of the occupants, at what temperature is feeling comfort, how much energy it is utilizing for what purpose, how it is wasting, how it is utilizing. So option B will also be there. So let's see. Based on that, I think I have already discussed it. So how many of you wants to answer and answer it correctly? Yeah, I can see. Amit and Philip, they have answered A, B, C, D. So he has answered D. So option C. So D is also the correct answer for this one. As I have explained, the psychological traits of the, as we were talking about number of occupants, it is dependent upon the number of occupants. So it is also dependent upon the psychological traits of the occupants, as I have discussed. So if you have understood the concept and understood all the points, so can we move to the next question? D is also the correct answer. Are you okay? So as I can see now, Rajesh is able to accept that D is also the correct answer. So without much delay, let's move to the next question. Here is the next question. Fourth question. Then. Read the question and discuss it. Then you will learn. Definitely you will learn. Which of the following are the examples of strategies to reduce operational energy? Yeah, so you can see how you can reduce operational energy. Let's see how many of you can answer it correctly. For question number 5, smart lighting solutions. If you're putting smart lights, whether like different sensors, proximity sensors, or something, so whether when you will not be in the room, so it will be switching off the lights. Those smart facilities or solutions you are having, say different building management systems you are having, renewable energy integration if you have done in your buildings, or behavioral changes or educated people are there, and whether all these things will be reducing the operational energy or not. On the four options, how much or how many of you think all the answers are correct? A, B, C, D. Rajesh has answered A, B, C, D, but answer the question number had not been answered. So for question number 5, you have answered, or for 4, Rajesh has answered for question number 4, I think. It is which question number? Yeah, it is question number 4 only. So I think all of you have been answered for question number 4 only. So all of you have answered it correctly, and you can answer, you can understand it very well. That all the four options will be helpful for reducing the operational energy. All of you are correct. Let's go to the fifth question. Here is the fifth question. Why does the number of occupants influence operational energy use? Yeah, you can see and you can answer how does or why does the number of occupants or how they influence the operational energy use. If you are talking about the occupants energy, it is or the number of occupants are it isn't there. So whether they will be contributing to the operational energy or reducing, or what thing can be possible. It's a very good question. There some of you may get confused as well. So I want all of you to give your perspective on this particular question, and I hope all of you will be able to understand and answer it correctly. Let's see the point of view of all of you. Read the question carefully. It is talking about occupants influence, not talking about occupants behavior influence. How does occupant directly influence the operation? What do you think is the most appropriate answer? So mention your answer in the chat box. I think most of you have answered. Let me see how many of you can understand the video of this question and answer it correctly. B. So whoever has opted option B, they're absolutely correct with their concept. Like each occupant, they will be contributing heat, and with their metabolism based on the activity they are performing in the room, whether sleeping or walking or sitting or doing exercise. Based on that, they will be contributing heat, and that increases the demand for utilities. That's fine. So option B have been opted by most of you, and it is the correct answer. So let's move to the next question then. Here's the next question in front of you all. Question number 6. In warm, humid climate, you have often observed that the air coolers or the desert coolers, they are generally ineffective. Yeah. So near the sea or the warm, humid states areas, we don't utilize air coolers. They generally become ineffective. Why? I hope all of you have understood the question and answered also. So let's see how many of you have answered. Yeah, as I can see, Rajesh, Amit is the first to grasp the question and he has answered B and all of you have answered B. And B is the correct answer for this question. Question number 6, that you have understood the concept whenever there will be desert coolers or air coolers in warm and humid climate, then for human comfort, when we will be feeling comfort, in that case, both temperature and humidity, those two parameters become very, very important. It's not always like if it is lower temperature, then we can easily feel comfortable. It's also talking about the humidity levels. If it is highly humid, then you will not feel comfortable. That's why desert coolers, which increase the moisture inside the room, that's why they are kept outside also. So I think all of you have understood it very well and able to answer it correctly. Let's move to the next question. Question number 7. Question number 7. Let's see how many of you can answer it. I hope all of you have got the question. It's talking about the skin of a building. So from the term only you can read HVC system and building envelope or building foundation or plumbing system. So when you're talking about the skin, you can recall from your 7BBB, all of you are opting for B option, and all of you are absolutely correct. So when you're talking about the skin, whether you're talking about your skin, then it's just the outer cover of your body. Similarly, when you're talking about the skin of a building, then it's not only talks about the foundation or HVAC system. These are not the outer layer or outer skin. Which we're talking about the building envelope. That's fine. So all of you have understood it correctly. And in this under the building envelope, I would like to add that it can also be explained or detailed in that the building envelope consists of a wall, roof, window that helps in controlling the heat transfer between the indoors and outdoors. That's why it is talking about heat gain or heat loss because building envelope they are wall roof they are obviously the responsible or they are control the heat transfer between the indoor and outdoor and helps in heat gain or loss. That's why they are the skin of the building like in our body. So with these all the sample questions have been discussed and here are 4 to 5 full forms, important full forms that you should be knowing after going through the content of Big 3 and after choosing the particular course of decarbonization. So you should be knowing the full these important full forms. Let's see how many of you can answer the full forms of these short terms that have been multiple times utilized while explaining the concepts. So whether you are able to recall or not. And if you know those things, then I think it will be easier to for you to understand and grasp and relate the things from the explanation point of view that have been made in the lecture and that can also be asked in the exams. So you should be knowing. Seventh, Okay. Yeah, as I can see, I've received some answers for this, and all the answers whichever have been marked, they are asking for A. So all of you are correct. It's just several times it will be utilized in the building sector, HVAC, which commonly refers to the heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems that have been answered by you all. Thanks. Let's move to the second question. Like NBC also. NBC, as mentioned in the building codes, several times NBC have been discussed, mentioned. So what does this NBC stands for? So try to give answer if you know this NBC or you have ever heard about NBC. Let's see how many of you are able to understand and recall. So 1A, 2A. Achha, 2A have been marked by Amit, 2B by Celine, 2A by, so most of you have answered 2A. Only one has answered 2B. So this NBC particularly stands for National Building Code. Option A. Whoever have marked option A, they are absolutely correct, and whoever were not able to mark or recall it correctly, so correct yourself, that NBC refers to India's National Building Code. It's not council, which is talking about the building codes, as have been mentioned in the question also. A small hint was there that it is talking about the building codes. So C will be standing for code. It's not for council. And this NBC is a set of guidelines for building design, construction, including the energy performance that has one has to follow while constructing an energy efficient building design. Fine. So let's move to the third one then. GWP is often used in evaluating materials potential. So what is this GWP? How many of you know what is this GWP? If several times it have been utilized. Amit. So Rajesh was the first to answer this question, and Celine and Amit. All of you have answered and participated in this session, and all of you have answered it correctly. So everybody is fine with the term GWP. If it will be oftenly used in the upcoming lectures also, so you will be able to relate it. Fine. So here is the next term, BIS. What does BIS stands for? It is a kind of quick revisions for you also to recall what does BIS mean. BIS. So it's very difficult to prepare a multiple choice question for these kind of answer questions, because as you know in the question also it has been already asked that BIS are national standards. It is talking about a national standard. So out of the four options, you can easily discard two options which are talking about the society or sustainability. So only two options are left: Bureau of Indian Standard or Board of Infrastructure Standards. So in out of that only you have to choose the correct answer. So it's very difficult to prepare. It would have been easier to ask you guys directly the full form of BIS. Then you have to mention the full form of BIS in the chat box. Then you will have to recall. It would have been difficult for your end also. But it's easy for you to recall and choose the most appropriate answer out of the four options. So then also if you're committing mistake, then I don't think. Let's see how many of you have known. Finally, the thing is you should know whether you know it earlier or not, but now you should know it properly. 4A. So all of you are absolutely correct. It's Bureau of Indian Standard. It's a national standard organization that stands that is for India, responsible for setting various building and material quality standards in India. Fine. So here's the last one. Last one, BMS. What do you understand by BMS? Let's see. BMS, Building Management System. Let's see how many of you have answered it correctly. As I can see, 5A, 5A, and 5B was opted for one of you. So most of you have opted option A, and from the options you can discard many of the options, but whoever have opted option B, this is the incorrect one. Option A is the correct answer for this question. That is BMS refers to in when we are talking about building energy performance, then BMS refers to the building management system. So this building management system basically talks about a control system that monitors and optimizes building services like HVAC, lighting, security, etc. So overall, it is talking about the building energy in terms of or in regards of building energy performance. So option A is the correct answer. Marked it. So it is fine. Everybody is fine with option A. Can we move to the next question? Can we move to the next question? Let me see how many of you can respond. Okay, so Celine is fine. So let's move to the next question then. So here this sample problem question series ends, and now we will be solving the last 10 questions. These last 10 questions will be based on the previous year assignment questions and answers. I want all of you to participate, particularly to the final year last year assignment questions. These are very important. Again and again I'm telling you, and based on the assignment that you have submitted this week, also the lectures that you have gone through this week, and the several simple problem questions and the discussions that we are having in the last 1.5 hours. So based on that, I hope you will be able to answer all the questions correctly that will be discussed in this session next. So here are the last 10 questions. Try to answer it with full energy and correct the correct answers. Here's the first one. So this thing I have discussed in the initial class as well. That Econivas Samhita, which is which part of the means category, which category of the building it is dealing with, or these codes are pertaining to what. I hope if you listened to the problem solving session and attended the session from the beginning, then you must be able to answer it correctly and do it correctly in the exam as well, if it comes. Anyone who has the answer can give their answer in the chat box. So these are all the previous year assignment questions. Like you are doing the assignment question this year. There are the previous year assignment questions for the people who have attended the course of this NPTEL course last year. Anyone who wants to answer, they can mention their answer in the chat box. Let me see if somebody has answered and we can discuss it. Otherwise, we will be giving time for them. Yeah, so we have received several answers for this question number one. Most of you have opted option C, as I can see. Not most of you, all of you. All of you have opted option C. Yeah. So option C, whoever has opted, they are absolutely correct. And in the initial class session also I have discussed. ECBC is for the community scale buildings or commercial buildings, I should say. And this Econivas Samhita, this is mainly for the private residential buildings. That's why option C, which talks about Eco Niwas Samhita, focuses on residential building energy efficiency, aiming to reduce the energy consumption in building housing sector. This is the correct answer, and I'm glad that all of you have opted the correct answer. So let's move to the second question. Yeah, again, okay. So this question answer can be given based on the discussion that we just had. So I hope if you were the part of the discussion, then you will be able to answer it correctly. Question number second. Try to answer, all of you. In the previous discussion only, I told. So it's very difficult to see that apart from after the discussion also you are having different answers. So let me tell you all that whoever has opted option C, they are absolutely correct. And option A, whoever has opted is in going in wrong direction, because in the previous discussion only I told you these commercial buildings, it comes under SCBC building typology or category. And the question is not asking about which comes under, like in previous question it was asking about which comes under Econihas Samhita category. It is now asking which does not come, which does not cover the following building typology. So based on that, you can simply see after answering the question number one, and after this much of discussion, you should know that ECBC does not cover private residential buildings. So option C is the correct answer for this question. Now, if you are having in doubt, then you can ask. Otherwise, you can tell whether we can proceed for the next question or not. Can we proceed for the third question? I hope now you have got it, and it's just reading the question carefully whether it is just not is written. ECBC does not cover, so that no changes the complete answer. So read the question carefully before answering it here or in the exam. Yeah, so let's proceed then. So here is the third question. The last 10 out of the last 10 question of the previous year assignment, we are moved to the third question. Which of these materials has the lowest global warming potential? Yeah. So we have talked about highest global warming potential in the sample problem. Similarly, lowest global warming potential was also asked in the previous year assignment. So let's see how many of you were able to answer, would have able to answer if it would have asked with you in the assignment. This time Rajesh is the first to give his answer for this question number 3 is very rapid. For him, I don't think it will be more than 2 hours to solve the question. If it would have been 3 hours paper, and then he can do it in 2 hours. But whether he is correct or not, let us check after some other answers that we should receive. Yeah, as I can see, this time all of you are going in similar direction, not running in different directions at least. So all of you have marked a rammed earth. It is your thinking it is having the lowest global warming potential, and your thinking is absolutely, or the answer is absolutely correct. The rammed earth has a low embodied energy and minimum greenhouse emission of greenhouse. potential as compared to the listed materials like gypsum, steel, reinforcement, or ceramic tiles. Fine. So let's move to the fourth question then. Here is the fourth question. So all these questions, I hope you are able to answer it easily after the long discussion that we had today among each lectures and sample problems. So let's see how many of you can answer it correctly and fastly as well. Operational. So whenever you are doing or whenever your building is in operation, so what kind of energy it will be comprising or consuming? It's simple question. It's a very relevant, realistic question. You should be able to answer it. Let's see how many of you know that which load comes under operational energy. Yeah, from here I can see that is also opted A and B, and Amit and Sylvine has opted option B. So the correct answer for this question is option D, all of the above. So whoever have opted D, they must have scored full marks in this particular question. And for Rajesh, I would like to say that when a building is in operation, you can note that like you are residing in a building, somebody is residing in a building. So when it is in operation, in running condition, so there will be some heating load during the whether it may be in winters. There will be some cooling load coming. HVAC load basically is talking about. But this cooking load can also come as under the operational energy, because when the building will be in operation, then this cooking load will also be coming, whether you are utilizing grinders, mixers, or inductions, or heater, something. So all these loads will be coming under the operation only. That's why all of the option was chosen deliberately by most of the students. So D is the correct answer. Is it fine now? Okay. So let's move to the next question then. Question number 5. Here's question number 5. The maximum use of operational energy in a residential residence is by. Yeah, this is very easy question if you have known the answer. Maximum use is talking about, so it's not multiple choice question. It talk maximum is only one point or one option. I hope all of you are able to answer this question correctly. Yeah. So 5C, Rajesh is first to answer here also, and he has answered it correctly, and all of you are also going in right direction. And from the options also you can discard, like a light bulbs nowadays and previously also it consumes less portion as compared to the air conditioners, fans also there. That's why maximum use of optional energy in residence comes through or comprises by air conditioners that you have opted. Fine. But this is also when it is in hot climate conditions. This is also one of the thing that can be included in the question, that in the hot climate conditions, air conditioners are the largest share of operational energy use. Fine. So here's the sixth question then. Yeah, it is the acronym that is the appropriate thing that I should use. The Griha acronym. That Griha building coding you have understood well. Then what is the acronym for that? Six. This is very good question, and all the options they seems to be confusing. So whoever is knowing the thing correctly, then he can only choose the correct answer. These all the questions they are directly from the previous year assignments. So such kind of questions you should be in touch with and should practice. And you should be also able to answer because this is if you are not able to answer the weekly question uh, practice questions or the sample questions, assignment questions, it would be difficult for you to answer after 3 months or 4 months when the all week contents will be there. So it is fresh. The contents is fresh. We studied just 1 week ago or few days ago, I should say. So these things, if it is discussed like Griha is discussed, then you should yourself question. You yourself should get the answer as well and have the curiosity to know these small things. That what does this mean? What does each term of this is referring to? You can relate it easily. Let's see how many of you can know. Okay, so two answers I have received till now. Okay, three one. So three is theirs, and all of you are opting for option C. Let me then look at that. You all of you are talking that this GRIHA refers to the green rating for integrated habitat assessment, and all of you are absolutely correct. That option C is the most appropriate answer and is the only answer I should say for this question. And this GRIHA is India's national rating system for green buildings and assessing their environmental performance over the life cycle. That's why whatever the each term of this particular short term, each term is referring to integrated habitat assessment. It's fine. Option C is the correct answer for this GRIHA acronym. Then let's move to the next question. Then all of you are correct. Then let's move to the next question. I don't think it's further discussion is needed. So here is the next question. The region with the highest cumulative CO2 emissions is, yeah. So there was one chart which was shown to you where different continents and East Asia, West Asia, Europe or something, all the things were discussed about the cumulative CO2 emissions. From that chart, try to recall that which of the region was having the highest cumulative CO2 emissions. And if you are able to recall, then you will be able to answer it correctly. Out of the four options, Europe, Eastern Asia, Africa, and South America. Let's see how many of you have already answered. So many of you have already answered, and you are opting for option D, as I can see. Yeah. So option B, whoever has opted, they are incorrect. As I can see, none of you have answered it correctly. So read the question carefully. It is talking about the highest cumulative CO2 emissions. And let me show you as well. It is opening here. Highest cumulative CO2 emissions. I think it will be week 4. Lecture notes you are not able to download for each one. Fine. So if you will be going through in the video lectures, from there you can see. Yeah, I thought. Yeah. Anybody who wants to change the answer or okay. So let me discuss the final answer and the correct answer. The correct answer for this one is option A, not D, Europe. Option A is the correct answer for this question. Question number 7. Because it was well discussed that the historically highest CO2 emissions was coming from option A, Europe. It was there. That's why all the other options they are not correct. Whoever has marked option D, it's not correct. So you can go through the lectures also. There was one big chart and where each continent lecture things were mentioned how much whether Asia, India which was falling under the Asia that was coming even more less than 1/10 of the highest emissions. Those things were discussed with you all. I hope you are able to get the correct answer for this question, question number 7. So can we move to the next question? Are you able to digest that option A is the correct answer? And are you able to recall? Then we can move to the next question. Last three questions. Okay, now this is fine. So you can go through those slides again and see the CO2 emissions from each of the continents or regions. Again, this is very important slide that was discussed. Whether you took it serious or not, I don't know, but several questions can be formed from those slides. So each slides you have to look wisely. So let's move to the eighth question then, without wasting much of our time. Here is question number 8. Factors that affects operational energy are. Yeah. So which factor affects the operational energy? You try to answer. I hope. Hmm, let's see how many of you have answered it correctly. Yeah. So this time you have gone for option D, both of you. And D is the correct answer for this question, all of the above. So in the previous question also we have discussed like operational this CO2 energy emissions. This will be containing consisting of all the factors, number of occupants, psychological traits that was missed by Rajesh initially, but I am happy that he has now gone through it and understood and incorporated in this particular answer. So he has realized his mistake in the previous question, and climate of the place also is mattering. The operational, how much operational energy will be there. If it is extreme climate, then it will obviously higher energy demands will be there. And it is moderate, then it will be in between that. So I hope let's see all of you have answered it correctly since some other answers can also be incorporated in that like ABC you have noted. So like human comfort preferences can also be there, one of the options like human comfort preferences. Different people is having different comfort preferences. Based on the comfort preferences of the humans, this operational energy get also affected. So this can also be one of the factor that you should also know. So let's move to the next question then, question number 9. Here's question number 9. Try to give answer to the question number 9. Reducing operational energy in buildings involve. Yeah, this is very good question, and it should take some time for you to answer, but you answered it correctly. That will be most, or that will be appreciated. Out of the four options, which is the most appropriate answer? So till now, as I can see, two answers have been marked. Yeah. So let's see how many of you have answered it correctly and how many of you have answered it incorrectly. Sorry. Yeah, Rajesh was the first to answer it, and the others also they have answered C. So for this particular question, reducing operational energy in building, if you are trying to reduce the operational energy in building, then you should be implementing strategies to improve the energy efficiency. That is absolutely correct, and minimizing the overall consumption. That's also a good way of reducing energy consumption in the building. So both A and B are correct. All of you have opted option B, so all of you are correct. So let's move to the last question of the session then. Here's the last question of the previous year assignment, and I hope all of you will be able to answer it correctly as well. Yeah, it's similar to the previous question, I think. Previous question was talking about reducing the operational energy in a building involves, and it is talking about operational energy. If you will be reducing the operational energy, then it will be contributing to overall what it will be contributing to if you are reducing the operational energy. So I hope both the answers questions are clear to you and you will be answering it correctly. Let's see. Yeah, as I can see, this time all of you have opted option C, and as per you, whenever you will be reducing the operational energy, then it will be contributing to the energy saving definitely and reduced carbon emissions both, which have been marked in option C. So with this, the week 3 problem solving session comes to an end, and I hope all of you have gone through and revised the things very well, and this problem solving session will be helpful for you. I hope it was helpful for all of you. So like this week, in the next week also, we will be having problem solving sessions in which we will be discussing the important key concepts and sample problem questions and the previous year questions of week 4 particularly. So I hope all of you have enjoyed the session and made the session an interactive and wonderful one for others also. So these recordings I will be uploading in the YouTube, and these things will be available to you, and this sample problem and the previous year questions will also be made available to you through the Google Drive. So with this, I would like to end the today's problem solving session, and I would like to thank you all for joining the session. Thank you. See you all in next tutorial session, problem solving session on next Tuesday. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you all.